Hi folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. With me today is our personal Yamaha Kodiak 700, and this thing is now 10 years old. Yeah, we brought it home back in the fall of 2015, and that means it's time to do another long-term update. So in this video, I'll tell you about how it rides, how it handles, all the different jobs we've done with it and how it works, and then most importantly, discuss reliability and all the work we've had to do over the last 10 years. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's start with some numbers. So total length on this unit is 81.5 inches. Width comes in at 46.5 inches, while the wheelbase measures at 49.9 inches. Ground clearance here is listed at 10.8 inches, while the wet weight, according to Yamaha, is 690 pounds. For capacities, the front rack is rated to carry 110 pounds, while the rear rack is good for 198 pounds, and the 2-inch hitch receiver out back can carry 1,322 pounds. Now let's talk about this model specifically. So this is the Kodiak 700 Special Edition. The SE means that it's top of the line. So we got things straight from the factory, like that winch down there on the front end. Some of the upgraded styling too, like the wheels, rather than just the plain steel wheels. Now another question I hear a lot is, what is really the difference between the Kodiak and the Yamaha Grizzly? Well, in a nutshell, I can tell you that the Grizzly is more about aggressive, fun trail riding, and the Kodiak is a little bit more about just doing jobs, but also the Kodiak is less expensive, so it's going to save you some money. The engine and the bones of these two ATVs are basically the exact same, but it's some of the other accessories and different parts like the tires that get added onto the Grizzly to make it, a little bit more aggressive. If you want to know more though, I've done a full video comparing a Kodiak and a Grizzly, so you can go check that out. So like I said, this is Kodiak 700 SE. You're getting that winch up front. Definitely like this big steel bumper up here because we're always crashing through the bush. And then we get our front rack. Now this is what ATV racks looked like for a long time, and a lot of them still do. However, we've also noticed a trend in recent years in modern ATVs that brands are building in more storage directly into their racks, because the truth is, this is good if you're going to strap something onto it, but it's not good for just sort of tossing in loose items, which is what people are usually doing. And that leads me to the back rack. And this guy, yes, my dad got sick of not having places to put stuff, so we put this big bin on here and bungeed it on. We actually have another bin for the front rack as well, and this straight up makes the ATV more usable every day, because like I said, you can just toss things in there. For us a lot, we're putting in groceries and other things that we want to bring down to our cottage from the top of the driveway. So yes, this is a little enhancement we made that goes a long way, and I think in some ways Dad's idea here was ahead of its time, because yes, manufacturers are now giving us standard storage built into the rack. So that's one upgrade that we made. Now, moving back here, a couple more features I can show you. There is storage right here, and it's a nice deep storage bin. You can see how far my arm goes in. This is another thing on modern ATVs that has gotten even better. Now we get storage sometimes over here in the fenders and out back. On this ATV, we just got it here, but still really nice to have at-hand storage. Now, looking at the controls and everything, it's pretty simple. We get 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. This model does get a front diff locker, so nice to have the diff lock right there. On the left handlebar, you're getting your winch controls, lights, start, stop, and a kill switch. And then you also get a pretty nice LCD screen up here. And even though this thing is a decade old, this is still the kind of screen that comes on tons of ATV models, so it doesn't really feel like it's ancient or anything like that. Now at this point, let's pop the seat off and I'll show you a few more things, including this sticker right here, which tells you which engine you have because it tells you your displacement. And that's how I know that this Kodiak was built with the 708cc engine. So this is kind of an interesting story. From 2016 to 2018, Yamaha sourced its 700 from Fuji Heavy Industries. That's the company that owns Subaru. So they got this 708cc engine from Fuji, and at the time they said, hey, a little bit more displacement, the engine is now more powerful. But then in 2019, they switched back to a 686cc engine, and that's the same engine you're still getting today in 2025. Now, they said publicly that the main reason was because they just couldn't source those engines from Fuji anymore, but we've also heard tons of people say that this 708cc is not as reliable as the 686. And the other thing we've heard a lot online is that this engine burns oil. Now, at this point, I might as well talk about it. We haven't experienced any of those things. We check our oil all the time. It's never had too much oil consumption. The engine itself has never been an issue. Now, our unit is not high mileage. We only have, I'll give you the exact number right here, 1,289 kilometers on the odometer, which, yeah, for a decade-old unit is barely anything. And that's because for us, this thing doesn't go trail riding. It doesn't go on long, hard day rides. It just stays here on our property, moves trailers around, drags around logs and leaves and launches wave runners, but it never leaves the property, so it doesn't do high mileage. So with that in mind, I'll say once again, the 708cc engine for us has been absolutely bulletproof. No issues whatsoever. And again, in that other video, I compared the 708cc directly with the 686, and there's a slight difference, but there's really not much of a power difference. So it's not like when they switched back, suddenly you lost a whole bunch of power. So I'd like to see that as well. But yeah, you know what? Why don't you guys weigh in now? Especially if you're an owner, I am curious about your experience with this 708, and if it was negative, please let me know. Talking suspension, you get a very typical dual A-arm setup in this ATV. Travel in the front is just over 7 inches, travel in the rear just over 9 inches, so not massive numbers for travel, but not too bad either. And then we get this standard 2-inch hitch receiver. I'm a big believer in getting a 2-inch receiver in your ATV. For us, we own a ton of trucks. We always have new trucks in here. We have a lot of 2-inch hitch receivers, so it's nice to only ever need one type of hitch for all of your different machines. That's how I feel about it. So yes, happy to see that 2-inch hitch back here. And I can tell you, we've towed tons of trailers with this ATV. We've moved around trailers in the lot that had no business being on an ATV, things like our pontoon boat, and yes, it was worked, but it could do those jobs too. And then we have a little bush buggy that we're constantly moving around brush and logs and leaves, and this thing does an excellent job with that. So the hitch is a very important upgrade, and yeah, nice to see it here, considering that some ATVs today still don't have a 2-inch hitch receiver. It's nice that Yamaha has been doing that for so long. Now let me dive into sort of the heart of the video, which is problems we've had with this ATV over the last 10 years, and the list is not very long. I'll tell you, for maintenance, all we've done is oil changes. We're probably due for some other fluid changes. We've not done them, and so far we haven't noticed a thing. We've done, I think, 3 oil changes maybe in the time we've owned it, and like I mentioned earlier, the engine's never burned more oil than it was supposed to. So yeah, just regular oil changes has kept it running smoothly. Now we did replace the starter about 2 years ago. We showed up after the winter, the thing wouldn't start. We thought maybe it was the battery, and yes, we have replaced batteries too. We thought it was the battery, it wasn't. The starter just totally died. So we have put a new starter into it. And then the other issue we've had is the 4-wheel drive switch. It doesn't work. Now this is a well-known issue. In fact, if I take this to a Yamaha dealership, they will fix this 4-wheel drive switch because there is a TSB about it. Quite frankly, we just live with it. This thing has been stuck in 4-wheel drive now for a couple of years, and it's not a big deal. We're usually back here on the gravel, and even when we're on the grass or down by the cottage, with this ATV, the rear differential is always locked. So even in 2-wheel drive, this thing has a tendency to tear up the grass underneath it when you're doing tight turns. That's one of the reasons why 2-wheel drive is nice, because you put it in 2-wheel, and then you get better handling, tighter handling, and you can also guarantee you're not going to rip up the ground underneath you. Well, this ATV is going to rip up the ground even in 2-wheel drive. So because of that, I don't find myself missing 2-wheel drive that much, really. 4-wheel drive is fine. And the good thing is that the front differential lock button, that still works here. So that's important, because if it was locked in diff lock, that would be a problem. But no, it's just locked in four-wheel drive. And we also had a lot of comments on a previous video that I did where a lot of guys just open this switch up and they clean up the contacts inside, and that can be enough to fix it too. So yes, this is a well-known issue, but like I said, quite frankly, we just live with it. And that's it. Outside of that, we've had no reliability problems. This thing sits for 3-4 months out of the year during the winter. Every single spring we come back and it fires right up, doesn't miss a beat. So in our experience, this Kodiak has been absolutely bulletproof, and I do feel like that's one of the reasons why people gravitate towards Yamaha over some of the other brands, is this reputation for reliability. And in our experience, that reputation is absolutely deserved. All right, folks, now you've heard about our ownership experience. Well, let's go for a ride. First of all, gonna feel the power. And honestly, the power from this 708 is quite good. It's not insane blow you away power, but I can't see myself ever complaining about it. I know Yamaha still hasn't gone to like a big twin 1000 or an 800 or something like that. That's what people have been asking for a long time. But that's because I think this 700 is plenty. And Yamaha is definitely a brand where if it ain't broke, they're not gonna fix it. So I feel like most owners are good with this amount of power out of the 700, and it's actually a much smaller group who want that big bore machine from Yamaha. So yeah, I'm still very happy with this 700, and I've ridden a bunch of modern 700 Grizzlies as well, and the power honestly feels just about the same. There's little differences, but it's not a pronounced difference. So yes, very happy with the power play. Now next up is the handling, and I think in that department, the Kodiak is just okay. The first thing I notice is when you're running it aggressively, especially coming around corners, it does have a tendency to lean. The suspension is a little bit squishy. It sort of squishes left and right. And because of that, it doesn't have that kind of tight handling feeling that a lot of modern ATVs do. So I find myself having to compensate with my body a little bit because the suspension can be a little bit squishy. But that also does equal a comfortable ride when you're just cruising down the trail. And another thing which I think is important to mention is the seat on this Kodiak is quite comfortable. But more importantly than quite comfortable, and here I'll even stop right here and show you, it's 10 years old, this seat. It's had a lot of weight and a lot of butts on it, and it's not too soft. It's still got a good firmness to it, which means it's going to support your weight. When ATV seats get old, they have a tendency to just, get really soft and sort of let you go right through them. That hasn't happened here. Plus the vinyl on the seat is holding up really well too. So yes, good news on the seat here, and the comfort is good. So yeah, handling is just okay. And then the tires, and I mean the grip from these Maxxis tires, we've never had any complaints. This ATV goes anywhere on our property. It can do the Hydroline. Here you can see it doing the left hook. Now, there's literally almost no water up there right now at all, so it's just dry mud. But yeah, the grip department from the tires is good. And you know what, once again, we'll stop right here. Because grip from a brand new set of tires, yeah, well, you expect that. These tires are a decade old. They could probably use changing. But honestly, they're in good shape. There's no cracking. There's no visual signs of wear. Obviously, these treads, these big blocks, are going to be a little bit more worn out than when they were brand new. But for the most part, the tires are holding up exceptionally well. Now, they're just 25-inch tires, and you notice that. You know, all modern ATVs, most of them get larger tires. And the larger tires make it easier to just run over obstacles. Give you a better approach angle, better ground clearance. So yeah, would I like larger tires? Sure. That's not what this Kodiak is about. So for this package, the tires have served us quite well. So I think the summary on this Kodiak, after owning it for 10 years, is it's a near perfect all-arounder. It it's not a crazy handling machine. It's not a crazy powerful machine. It's not a machine that can tow unbelievably large trailers or anything like that, but it does everything pretty well. If you want to enjoy, you know, a Sunday ride, you can do that. There's plenty of suspension travel and power here that you're gonna have fun on the trail. You're not gonna be beat up, and you're gonna keep up with your friends on their ATVs. And then if you wanna, hook up a trailer, haul some wood around your lot, you can do that as well. So that's my take on this Kodiak, is it's really good at doing just about everything. It doesn't excel in just one area, but it is good at everything. And then the other half of that equation is, it's 10 years old and it's still working like it was brand new. So when it comes to the reliability and longevity, this Kodiak has been so good. So I think the final part of this equation that we have to talk about is the simple fact that Yamaha, just like Honda and Kawasaki, they don't change their ATVs very often. So if you buy a 2025 Kodiak, you're really not going to feel a lot of difference between that and this model. And I think that makes a used unit more compelling. You could probably pick up a Kodiak like this for, I don't know, $4,000, something around there. And that's going to be half the price of a new unit, maybe 3/4 of the price of a new unit. But even still, you're going to be getting something that's still reliable, still bulletproof, handles the same, and it's going to save you some money. So sure, I do appreciate the fact that a new unit gets a warranty. A new unit, you know where it's been, you know it hasn't been beat on, you know exactly what the maintenance records are. But I'll also remind you, we've only done minimum maintenance. In fact, I'm sure there's maintenance that we should have done that we haven't done. So far, there's been no difference. So that's always nice to see too, when the brand builds something that's so reliable and so good that even when it's not taken care of exactly as the manufacturer recommends, it's still reliable. And I would say that's the case with this machine right here. So yeah, there's always pros and cons when you're weighing new versus old, but when it comes to a machine that's this reliable, I'd say get the old one and save a few bucks. Well folks, we are coming to the end of this video. Now, I gotta tell you, the Yamaha Kodiak might not be the sexiest ATV on the market, might not be the fastest, might not be the best at going around corners, but if you're looking for a unit that is a good all-arounder and that will start every single time you want it to, well, that's what this has done for us. So I gotta tell you, this is a solid choice, and I'm hoping that in 10 years from now, I can make this video once again, and based on our first 10 years of ownership, I think this Kodiak's gonna make it. But yeah, that's it for this one. Now please go into the comments, let me know what you think of this Kodiak and everything you've seen in this video. If you have questions, please ask them, I'll be happy to answer. And then as always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next. And if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna head back out on the trail. See ya.